Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I am going to provide the answer of the weekly challenge which I have posted this week. In case you were able to successfully complete the challenge and you have shared me the answer, congratulations for adding something on your skill. In case you were not able to complete the solution and you are still looking for the answer, you are in the correct video. In this video, I am going to code this problem statement in a step-by-step manner. So, in case you are struggling, you can watch this video and you will get the solution for the problem statement. As an RPA developer, we all might have different approaches for solving a problem. So, one problem can be solved with multiple different ways. So, in case you feel that yes, there might be a better way or it can be solved alternatively, you can also comment the same in this video and I would be happy to address that and would amplify that post as well, right? So it's all about sharing the feedback and learning together. In case you are coming to the channel for the first time and you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel to get the next videos in this series. Okay, so this video is the solution of the challenge which we have posted this week. The name of the challenge was TBMK0001 and the challenge name was array manipulation, right? So the problem statement here was to create an automation which would give us the array of number and return us the sum of all the even numbers. I am going to show two solutions. The first one be step by step with the help of loops, and the second one would be using a LINQ which has been submitted as a solution by one of the subscriber. We had this sample input and the expected output, right? Now the first thing here we should notice is that this input is in double quotes, right? So the input which we were giving was in a form of a string, right? And we have to get the sum out of all these numbers, right? So the first thing first, I'll go back to my UiPath Studio, right? So I have created a blank sequence here, and let's go to the activities and I'll take an assign activity here, right? So this assign activity I am going to use to store the input. Okay, so I'll go here, I'll hit Ctrl+K and I will say that this is a string input. So I'll copy the input from here, come back and paste it as the value, right? Now this is a string input, right? So this means that UiPath is going to treat this as a complete string. UiPath does not understand that there are multiple values which are separated by comma. So the step one is to let UiPath know that this is an array of integers and this is not a single string. So the step one would be to convert this single string into an array of string, right? How do we do that? I'll go back to the activities, I'll take one more assign activity and I will convert this to an array. So I would say here I'll create a variable, it is called array of string, right? I'll go to the variables and array of string would be here, select this which is array of t and select the value string, then I'll hit OK and that will create an array of string for me, right? Now the task is to convert this string to a string array. To do that, I'll open this and here we would specify what is the value which we want to convert, which is string input, right? And if you notice here, the values are split by a comma, right? So we need to split it. Dot split. Split is a function which is provided by .NET where you can split the data, right? Put a bracket and see here it is asking me, Mukesh, what is your separator? How is your data separated, right? So my data is separated by a comma. So I'll put a comma in the double quotes and then it's a single character, so I would specify here C. and I'll say save. And that way, as you can see that now this complete string is now split into something which is called array of string. What does that actually mean, right? So let me quickly do a right line here, okay, and let me put a breakpoint. I would run this automation in debug mode and tell you guys how is this thing making a difference, right? String input versus array of string. So I'll go here and I would say debug the file. Okay, we'll just wait for this variables, and here you can see that this was the string input where 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 was in a single string. However, when I converted this using this expression, it is now array of string and I have 5 string items. 2 is separate, 4 is separate, 6 is separate, 8 is separate, and 10 is separate, right? So this is called an array of string, and this 5 indicates that there are 5 elements in this array. Okay, you can further expand this array of string indirectly in the debug mode, and you can see the length here, which is length is 5, and come to the raw view where you can see that there is the count of 5. Expand this raw view and you can see that all the items are now separate strings, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, all of them are now separate strings. Okay, so I'll stop this here. So I hope now you understand what is the difference between a string and a string array. Okay, so good practice, always mention here something like this. I would say convert to string array, and this is our input. I'll save this. Okay, so now what we have got? We have got the array of string where all of these numbers are separate. Now the next thing is we have to check whether this number is an even number or not. If it is an even number, then we have to sum it. If it is not an even number, then we have to skip it, right? So that means that we have to do it for all these items one by one, and we have to write it in a loop. We have to do it for each of the element in the array, right? So whatever I have to do for 2, first I'll check 2 whether it's an even, it's an odd. I will check 4 whether it's even or odd, right? So for each of the element I have to do the same thing. So since as I'm speaking that we have to do it for each of the element, I'll go to the activities, and since I have to do it for each, I'll take an activity which is called for each. Drag and drop it here from the control for each, put it here like this. Now for each is asking me, Mukesh, where is your list of items? Where are your items? So items, where are the separate items, right? It's not in the string. Now all the items are in array of string. How many items? 5 items in our case. So I'll say that, hey UiPath, this is your array, or I would say list of string. Now one common question many of the UiPath developers are having, that I provided this array but I never told UiPath that I am having a string, I was having an integer, right? In the older version such as 2019.10, you had to set up an additional property in the properties, then you have to tell UiPath, right, what kind of items I have. But with the updated version, UiPath is intelligent enough to understand that yes, this is an array of string, and this current item whatever you are getting would be in a string variable, right? So no need to again specify that it as a string. Okay, and now I'll just rename this for each to something like iterate the array. Okay, now this is an array of string. Now how do you guys check whether a number is even or not, right? So any number which is divided by 2 and gives you a remainder of 0 is a even number. Any number which is not divided by 2 is an odd number, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, these are the even numbers. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, these are the odd numbers, right? And our task is to just calculate the sum of the even numbers, right? This for each activity is going to give me all these numbers one by one. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. First it will give me 2, second it will give me 4, then it will give me 6, then 8, and then 10, right? So this current item will all have all these value one by one. However, as of now, all these are string, right? All of these are string, but we have to check the number, right? So the first thing is we need to convert that string to a integer, right? How do you convert? So I'll go here and I'll take a assign activity. Okay, you can do it in directly while converting also, but I am thinking that you are absolute beginner, so that's why we are doing it step by step, right? So what we are trying to do here is we are trying to convert each of this individual item from array, which is now string, to a number. So I'll go here and I will create a new variable. I'll call it int underscore number. Okay, so go to the variables, int underscore number. I'll change the data type to integer. Okay, now here how do you convert? So I'll open this and you can simply use this syntax, which is called cint, which simply means convert to integer. Put a bracket, what is the value you want to convert to integer, right? And this for each is going to give all these items one by one in this variable, which is the current item. So I'll simply pass here current item like this, and I say save. That's it, right? Now what would happen? All these number 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 are going to come one by one in this current item, and this guy is going to convert them to a number, right? So now this 2 is a number which is available with me. In the next run, the 4 will come. After that 6, after that 8, and after that 10, right? So what we have to do next, right? So I have got the number. The next thing is you simply have to check whether that number is a even number or not, right? And then we do the sum. We'll go step by step, right? So now the next step is we will see whether that number is a even number or not. Now to check that, we know that any number which is divided by 2 and gives a remainder of 0 is called an even number, and any number which is not divided by 2 is an odd number, right? So numbers like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 are even number, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11 are the odd numbers, right? We just check that condition. So I'll go to the activities. I'll take something which is called an if, drag and drop it here. Okay, and now here we are going to check what is the condition, right? And where is the number? The number is int in the number. So I'll say that if the number mod 2, mod simply gives you the remainder, right? If you divide any number by 2 and the remainder is 0, that means this is an even number, and if not, that is an odd number. As simple as that, right? So now what we are going to do here is in the then part of it, right here, if the number is even, right, what you have to do? You have to calculate the sum, right? If the number is divided by 2, that means it's an even number and you have to calculate the sum. So that logic will come here. If it is an odd number, don't do nothing and you can just simply skip that number. But to store the sum, we need a variable, right, where you are going to store that variable. So I'll go to the variables and I'll create a new variable which I call it as sum. Okay, so this sum would be a variable where I would store the total, and this would be a type integer. Okay, so this indicates that yes, this sum is a variable, right? Okay, and I will provide a default value of 0, right? I'll explain this why I am passing a default value of 0 to here in a little bit moment, right? So here I have got the number mod 2 is equal to 0 and we are going to store the sum, right? Now how do you sum the numbers? I will just take an assign activity and I would say UiPath that in the sum, right, just whatever you have in the sum. So in the first time it would be 0, add whatever you have in this variable, which is number. As simple as that, right? So what will happen in the first run? It will have 0 and then the first number will be added and that value would be again stored back to the sum. So sum is equal to sum plus integer. When it is coming for the next time, and next time the number is coming as 4. So the sum would already have a value of 2. So 2 plus 4 will become 6 and it will keep running on the loop, right? So this would happen inside this if condition, right? Now one thing, whenever you are working with loops and such condition, you should remember that the scope of the variable is important, because as of now if you notice, the scope is only till the body, which means that after the first number is added, right, I want the sum variable to retain the value. But since the scope is only till the body, when UiPath is going to give me the next number, the sum value would again be reset to 0. So what would happen? You would always get a new value and you will lose your actual sum. You do not want to have that. So that's why I will go and change this scope of the variable to the complete solution. Now I have kind of make and increase the scope of the variable so that when it comes again inside the loop, the value is still in the sum variable. Okay, so remember guys, scope of the variable is important. Okay, so now we have got the sum and UiPath should go and print the sum in that variable. Okay, once this is done, right, the sum variable is calculated. Now you have to simply print the sum. So if I will print the sum inside the loop here, right, before even completing of all the variables, I would get a wrong number. So the output should be printed after this loop, after the iteration is completed, because if you print the sum here, what would happen? It might get print only for these two numbers, these three numbers, these four numbers, right? We want the sum to have for all the loops and we want to have the total once this complete calculation is done. That's why remember, the sum would be printed after the iteration is done, right? So after the iteration is done, I would have one write line here which is already there. I would simply say that the sum of even numbers is, and hit a plus whatever you have in the sum, right, dot toString, because you are printing it in a write line, right? Now I'll just remove this breakpoint from here. Okay, and now I'll just, after the input is here, right, I'll just use one more write line and I'll just print the input also, right, so that we don't have to come back again to see the input, right? So whatever you have in the input, I'll just print here something in double quotes. I'll say that this is the input and I'll hit a plus and I will say that this is the input. Okay, okay, so not input, sorry, my bad, the variable is str input. Okay, I'll save this. Okay, and let's try to execute this, right? So I'll just make this number to 5 here, 6 here, and then I'll put 7 here. So even, odd, right? So this is our input, right? So I'll put a breakpoint here. Just focus on one run, that how does this execution happen. I'll put a breakpoint here. I'll run this in a debug mode. I'm going to tell you step by step this complete logic. Okay, so that is ready. Okay, now if you see here, my execution has started. I'll do a step into. Okay, as you can see, the input is now 2, 5, 6, 7 and 9, right? Array of string is still null because we do not have converted it to the array of string, right? So the step 1 was to convert this to array of string. So I'll do a step into. Now array of string has all this number 2, 5, 6, 7 and 10, right? Now all of these numbers are in this array, and now what we want to do, we want to loop it in a loop, right? So first we will get 2, 5, 6, 7 and 10 with the help of this, right? And all of this item would be looped in this value, which is called current item, right? Let me do a step into, and as you can see, the current item, the first number which we have got from the array was 2, right? Now 2 is current item. If you can see, it is in double quotes, that means it is a string. We want to evaluate whether this is an integer, so we have to convert this to foreign number. So this was the statement which we have written to convert it to number. I would do a step into, and now if you see that the integer number has a value of 2. Okay, now in the if statement we are checking, right, whether it is a even number or not, right? So if the number is even, it will go here, otherwise it will skip. So if the number 2 is mod 2, condition is true, right? So it should add to the sum. See the value of sum. The sum is now 0, default value, right? I'll do a step into. Still the sum is 0. So 2 is an even number, condition true. Do it to the sum. Now the sum value is 2, right? Step into. Loop has came out. It has got the second number, which is called 5, right? Now it will convert that 5 to integer. Do a step into. 5 is converted to a number, right? Now it will again check whether that 5 is even or odd, right? So 5 is an odd number, so it will not go in this then statement, and it skipped the loop. It didn't do anything, right? So still your sum is 2. Next, I'll do again a step into. The third number it got from the array is 6, which is an even number. Convert it to a number, so the number is now 6. Check whether the number mod 2 is 0 or not, condition true. Add it to the sum, so the sum now became 8 because 2 plus 6, right? Next number which is coming as 7. 7 is not a even number, so skip the 7. Now it got the next number as 10. Convert that to number and condition would be true. Add it to the sum, right? It will keep going. So as you can see that now the sum is 18. Once all these numbers are done, it will automatically come out of the for each loop, which is this, and then we have this statement here which says the sum of the even number is this, and I'll do a step into, and you can see that the sum of the even numbers is 18, right? So that completes the automation, right? But if you remember, I have some condition like this where I say that I have all the numbers as even, 1, 5, 7 and let's say 9. Now as you can see, all the numbers are even. If I save this, go here, run the file. So if I go to the output, it says that the sum of the even number is 0, right? However, the expected output was this: there are no even numbers in the array, right? How do you do that? So in your sum variable, which was this, right, you have a default value which is 0. So I can simply check that if after doing all this calculation, okay, after doing all this calculation, if my sum is not equal to 0, right? If my sum variable is not equal to 0, that means I have got something. So I'll drag and drop that right line into this condition, right? If that is still 0, in the else, I would mention in a right line that there are no even numbers. I'll save this, go here and run the file. And now if I go to the output, you would notice that there are no even numbers, right? So that how you can check it. But sometime what might happen, that you did a calculation and the number is actually 0, right? So for example, think of a scenario like this, right? You have a number which is 2, and then you have a number which is -2. I'll save this, go here, run the file, right? Both of them are even numbers, but if I do the calculations, it is again going to say that there is no even numbers in the array, right? Now, how do you take care of this scenario? So, you can simply introduce any logic, that's completely upon you, right? But for me, I will quickly say that when you are iterating this array here, right? If your number was able to get here, that means you would have some value in the sum, right? At this point only, I'll take a assign activity. Okay, you can write any logic, right? I'll completely leave it to you, right? But quickly what I can think of is I can create a boolean variable. I'll say that bool underscore is first, which means that I'll convert it to boolean. Boolean has a default value of false. Okay, so this boolean variable, I will say here bool is first is equal to true, which means that anytime any one of the number is able to successfully come here, which means that that was a even number, right? So then I do not need to give that thing. So anytime whenever any of the number is able to get into the loop, it will set that value to true, right? So now while I am printing this in the if condition, I can say that if the sum is not equal to 0 and you have that variable, but again see I'm not getting that variable because of the scope, right? So I'll just click here, go to the variables and it to the solution. Now this bool underscore is first variable, right? Which means that you have got any one of the number which is an even number, right? So while printing the sum, I am checking if the number is not equal to 0, right? That means that it is not equal to 0. That definitely means that you are having an even number. But if the sum is 0, it is going to come to the else part, right? But now I want to check here whether that number is a default value or the sum itself has came as 0, right? So in the else part, I will take one more if, and this is called a nested if. And here I am going to check, okay, if the number is not equal to 0, and in the else I am checking if the number is 0, that's fine. You also check what is the flag. If that flag is true, that means you have got the actual sum, and if that flag is false, that means there is no even number into the array. So I'll put it here and I'll put this right line here. Now you are getting confused, right? So this right line is for printing the sum. That's why naming convention is important, right? So this is for the sum. I'll just rename. This is for the sum. Okay, just give me one moment. I'll rename so that you guys understand. And this is no even number. Okay, so let's go back. Now let's see what has happened, right? So I'll collapse everything. So till this part, I think we are good, right? So we have iterated all the numbers and we have got a value which is called sum. Now here I am checking if the sum is not equal to 0, right? That means the sum has some value which is not 0. 0 was the default value, right? So I'm simply telling UiPath to print the sum. So it will print the sum of the even number is whatever sum you have got. But let's say the sum is 0. Now 0 can appear in two scenarios. One scenario is that yes, it has got no even numbers. The second scenario is the total itself is 0. So how do we check that? So I have introduced a new variable called boolean. So if that variable value is set, that means that it is actually coming from sum. So I again print the sum. But if that variable is false and the number is 0, that means there is no even numbers, right? Let's quickly save this. And to test this, I'll go here and I'll pass the value something like this, 1357, right? Save this, go here and say run the file. And now in the output, you can see that there are no even numbers. Okay. Now let's change this to something like this, 2, -2. Save this, go here and run the file. Now the sum is actually 0, right? And because of that boolean flag, previously it was saying that no even numbers, but this time it is saying that the sum of the even number is 0. Okay. Now, so that was the second condition which we have handled. Now there can be one more different condition, right? Where I say that I have put here some alphabets. Now what would happen? If I save this, go here and I say run the file, right? What happens? Let's see. The automation started and it gave me an unexpected error where it says that I was not able to cast it m to the integer. That means you have not done the exception handling, and this gives an runtime error which is not correct. Ideally, the expectation was that you should give the correct output to the user, right? So I'll go back here, and to fix that, we'll quickly do the exception handling, right? As per your implementation, right, you can check exception handling for this conversion, for converting it to array, doing the calculations, right? Anywhere you can do, right? So for me, the input incorrect is coming when it is trying to have this number, right? So you can put exception handling on this complete block that will handle all the exception, right? So what I'll do is I'll right click on this solution and I'll say extract with try catch, surround with try catch, right? So that will wrap this complete thing in an try catch block for me like this, right? Now in the catch block, I'll simply add any exception which I got. I want to have a write line where I say that there is an issue, and then I can hit a plus and I say exception dot toString, right? So I'll get a message, right? You can do it on the individual activity and say that, hey, if you have get this exception, cast exception, check the input, right? So complete exception you can manage here, right? So that I'll leave it for your implementation. In case you guys are new to the exception handling, I have a dedicated playlist on exception handling both in English and Hindi language. You can watch that playlist to get complete idea, right? Now let's save this, go here and I say run the file. And previously I was getting a runtime error if my value were incorrect, right? I have given some m and k, and now this time you would see that I'm not getting any unexpected output. If I go to the output, you would see that there is an issue, this is an exception, and I am getting this complete error here, right? Now let's quickly put some of the correct values from our input, which is like this. So we are expecting the sum to be 12, right? I'll copy this, paste it, go here and I say run the file, right? So this is the correct input, right? So let's see what is the output, and the output we have got is 12, right? So this completes our complete implementation of the solution number 1, which was called TBMK0001, right? I hope you were able to get some insight. Okay, so that was the first solution to the problem where I have used the loops and where I have simply done with the help of step-by-step manner. However, there is a better way, or I would say a short way of doing the things, which is by using the LINQ. And this is the solution which has been submitted by one of the subscriber, right? So if you see here, this activity is exactly the same, where we have the array of inputs, right? So now how we have reached this array of input? The array of input is simply by converting the string to a string array, right? So till this point we have got the string array, right? Now once you have the array which is stored in a variable which is called array of input, I'll go to the variables, and you can see here the array of input is nothing but an integer 32 array, where you have got all the numbers in string in an integer array, right? Now this is a simple, or I would say single LINQ statement, which was able to get me the sum of the even numbers. First thing first, whenever you are doing the LINQ, you need to have this dependencies added, which is system.LINQ. This dependency need to be added to the project to write the LINQ. Okay. Once you have added this dependency, this is just one line statement which you are looking on the screen, which will get the sum of all the even numbers in the array, right? So we just mention here array of input, then we say dot where, which is a function. Now this num is an variable, right? So I am telling UiPath that yes, I have an array of input. In that I have this variable which is number, and this number will get all these number one by one from the array, and we simply have to check num mod 2. This is the same condition which we have checked in the if condition. With the help of LINQ, all of this is done within a single bracket, and I just say that if num mod 2 is equal to 0, that means that the number is divisible by 2, it's an even number, and if that is true, just store all of those numbers into a new array. That's it, right? So what I am doing is, from that array of input, I have got all the numbers which are divided by 2 into a new array, and that new array is called array of result. Okay, now in the array of results you would have all the even numbers, and now once you have all the even numbers, you just have to do the calculation, you just have to do the sum. And for doing the sum also we have used the LINQ, right? You can merge both the LINQs together as well, that's absolutely depend on your implementation. But here we have checked if the array of results is greater than 0, that means at least you have got some numbers in the array, right? Here array of results, if you have 5 elements, out of this 5, 3 are even number which modify this condition, satisfy this condition, that 3 will get in this number. Now if that has some value, you simply do the sum. And how to do the sum? This is just to do the sum, right? Array of results, where this is exactly the same, dot sum, right? So this you can do it in a single loop as well, this you can do in a flowchart, but these are the two LINQs, or I would say rather a single LINQ to do this challenge, right? So array of input, where function is this dot to array, and then once you have the array, just write dot sum and it will give you the total. As usual, all the code, everything, all the material whichever we are discussing on this challenge series would be available on our website mukeshkala.com, where you can download this and keep it yourself and practice along, right? So in case you want this material and this code, you can just go to the website mukeshkala.com, go to the challenges section, and you would have both the videos along with the code. So this was the solution using LINQ, where you just use this statement and it was able to give you the sum, right? There can be other different ways where you can accomplish this. I would be happy to hear from you in case you have any different approach of solving this problem statement, right? You can always write me an email, or you can mention the same in the comment section as well, so that all of us can benefit from your solution, right? So I would appreciate your feedback on this challenge series. What do you think about these challenges? If you want to come up with your challenges and you want to help me with that, happy to put your challenges also on the channel, right? So with this, I would like to wrap this video here. Thank you for watching. I hope now you have got some insight and you learned something new today. Okay, so that is all for this video. I would like to wrap this video here. I hope this was insightful. If you have any more questions, any more doubts, feel free to write me in the comments, or you can also drop me an email as well. I would appreciate your feedback on the video, and tell me in the comments what would be the next topic or next video you want to see. So with that, I would wrap this video here. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please do subscribe to the channel, and happy automation.